Gaming isn't funny anymore is an opinion I hear very frequently nowadays, but why is this? Why all of a sudden now people are disillusioned with video games and fail to see the enjoyment in them? Is it the player's fault, or is it the developer's fault? Or have we simply grown too tired of how modern games perform compared to older titles? To understand why people think video games aren't funny anymore, we have to analyze why people feel this way. I remember a time in which games were developed with quality in mind. This was about a few years ago at the very least. When we take a look at games released very recently, we see that they launch with minimal content coupled with a ton of bugs that ruin the overall enjoyment of the game. This is because most AAA studios develop games with the intent to make as much profit as possible with as much little work put into the game. A good example of a video game series that has declined in quality greatly is Call of Duty. I'm not the only one saying that the recent CODs are terrible. Thousands of others can agree with me in saying that COD is not what it once was a long time ago. This is because Activision is intent on sticking with the yearly cycle, which results in developers having to crunch out a brand new title in time spans as short as 16 months. So why are COD games released every year? Well, the answer is simple: because of money. Of course, having to compromise on making a yearly title results in less quality, but since Call of Duty makes millions with each release, Activision sees no need to make COD, let's say, a 2-year cycle game instead of a 1-year cycle game, since they will be making more profit with an annual release. The same idea can be applied to sports games. Every year, EA or 2K releases a new sports game with minor changes compared to the previous years and an updated roster. Again, this business model works for these companies because the casual player will buy these games every year and not complain because they don't have to invest that much time into it. But as these games decrease in quality and release the same game with minor improvements, players are being charged $10 more, all because we are entering a new era in gaming. People are justifiably upset at this because as games become more and more expensive, people's expectations rise, and when they're met with a game that doesn't fulfill those expectations, they become upset and dislike the game. I want to take a moment to address the upcoming GTA game that's releasing next year. This game has a very high standard set for itself due to Rockstar's reputation for creating successful games and the fact that the Grand Theft Auto series is one of the most popular video game series in the world. If the game turns out to be a complete flop, then most people will be upset. Understandably so, but if the game turns out to be good in the majority's eyes, there will be the few that don't think the game reached their expectations and they will be upset as a result. This proves that you can't appease everyone, and at some point or another, there will be a loud minority of people who will disapprove of your product. But even games such as Grand Theft Auto have their flaws as well. The one major flaw of modern gaming is the abundance of microtransactions. GTA Online has shark cards, and the majority of games have battle passes that reward players with skins, boosts, and cosmetics that they can't otherwise get without paying. Microtransactions are built into games to deliver profit and provide a cosmetic element to games, but taken to the extreme, they can promote pay-to-win tactics that reduce player enjoyment and ultimately kill the game. I know everyone hates microtransactions, but given the profitability for companies, unfortunately, they're here to stay for the foreseeable future in AAA games. Another major factor why I think gaming isn't fun to some people anymore is because of nostalgia. As people replay their favorite game they used to love when they were younger, they simply get less enjoyment and satisfaction than before, or they're dissatisfied with how the game evolved. Now they have to accustom themselves to the meta or new playstyles to compete, missing the times when the game is simpler. A couple of examples that fit this criteria that I can think of are Fortnite and Dead by Daylight. So much content has been added to these games that a person who's played them since day one can look back and see how different and simpler the game was back then compared to today. It's also upsetting to some people that their favorite game they used to love playing years ago has aged past its prime, with it receiving little to no updates and a tiny player count or riddled with cheaters. Even single player games can get boring if you've replayed it so many times you already know the outcome of it, or you've picked up all the achievements or master rewards from it. People can also simply be burnt out of video games. Playing a game for a long period of time can result in one losing interest in it because it gets boring. For me, I get burnt out of playing TF2, but once a year or so I go back into it and play it for a few months, and then I get burnt out of it again. So what can be done about this? How can we fix this feeling of boredom from gaming? Well, the simplest answer to that, in my honest opinion, is to take a break. Go outside, touch grass, literally. Read a book, go to the gym, draw, write, play a sport. Finding another hobby does wonders to your psyche, and if you get frustrated and bored of video games, then that's a clear sign you need to take a break and do something else. There are thousands of games out there, AAA, indie, and even different genres, but if you stick to playing the same thing over and over and over again, eventually you're going to get bored of it and you're going to think that video games are boring. This is because your brain is so accustomed to the game that you don't find the thrill and excitement you once had when you first started playing the game. And with how technologically advanced games are nowadays, people feel entitled to think that games should set a certain standard in terms of content, graphics, and gameplay, which is justifiable given that most modern day games are full of these features. But this comes with the downside of games being incredibly larger in storage size than games released years ago because of all the additions and features put into it. People are upset about this, but it's the price to pay when you want to add new gameplay elements and make the game visually appealing. I also think that a majority of game developers are stressed out because of the standard they have to reach to make a good game and the amount of crunch time they have to put into the games. From what I heard, the developers over at Rockstar worked insanely long hours so that GTA 4 could reach its release deadline. Even games that were developed and released during COVID were difficult because teams had to work remotely and navigate through a unique situation all the while they had to reach a certain deadline that couldn't be pushed back. Look at Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Overall, I think we can accept the fact that modern gaming might have its flaws, but that shouldn't discourage people from enjoying video games as a whole. Sure, there are games made by people who don't care, just want to make the most amount of money, but there are also games made by people who do care, just want to make an enjoyable product so that people have fun playing them. You just have to branch out and just find something that you enjoy. At the end of the day, video games are entertainment. If you don't find the games you play enjoyable, then branch out and play a different genre or just find something else that gives you enjoyment. I know I personally get tired of video games and frustrated at times, but that doesn't discourage me from playing them. I simply take a break, find something else to occupy my time with, then go back to playing the games I enjoy when I have the opportunity to. It's been a while since I've last uploaded, and I know this video is quite short and not related to TF2 at all, but I just want to throw my thoughts out there. If you agree or disagree with what I've said or would like to add to something, go ahead and leave a comment. That's all for today, everyone.